Good evening. We are starting now a brand new Mesechta Kidushin. Mesechta Kidushin primarily deals with the halachas of Kidushin through a man betrothing a woman, as the Mishnah we're going to learn in a minute, through various different kinyanim. So this woman becomes now an Ashes Ish to a married woman, and she's usher to everybody. And then Agav, the parak speaks about other kinyanim, speaks about the kinyan of avodim, eved knani, eved ivri, and then gets into different types of kinyanim of karkois, metaltalin, and then afterwards speaks about, the Masechta speaks about mitzvahs, which are tluyos ba'aretz, and then speaks about Kidushin ba'avedo, and the fourth parak speaks, a famous parak speaks about the halachas of yuchsin, and it's a very exciting Masechta. Many of us remember it from our yeshiva years, so it will be a nice refresher, and Be'ezah Hashem will be matzliach yet to acquire another Masechta. So the Mishnah starts off with the halachas of acquiring a woman, and let us begin. Ha'isha niknis b'sholish drachim, a woman can be acquired, like Rashi says, labaila, a woman is acquired to her husband in three ways. As well, the koines atzma, she acquires herself to become back to a unmarried woman, that she can get married to somebody else. B'shtei drachim, in two ways. So she can acquire, she could become an engaged woman. Nowadays, the Kidushin and the Nisuin take place in a few minutes of each other, but in the olden days, the way it worked was that first there was the mitzvah of Edisin, which that's what we're discussing now, and then they usually would wait a year and perform the Nisuin. So in order for the Kiddushin to take effect, this is going to be b'shalish drachim in three ways. The koines atzma, and she can acquire herself b'shtei drachim. And the Mishnah explains, niknis b'kesev b'shtar u'b'biyah. She can acquire herself either with money, or with a document, or with biyah. And Rashi explains, b'kesev b'shtar, as the Gemara is going to explain, that either he gives money, or he gives the value of money, and he says the words, harei at mekudeshes li, you are going to be acquired to me with this money. A shtar, he writes on a shtar, even though it's not worth a shava pruta, he writes harei at mekudeshes li, and the biyah, he has relations with her, a one-time relation, and says he's skachali b'biyazu. So again, niknes b'kesev b'shtar u'b'biyah. Now, the Gemara explains, b'kesev, when it comes to money, so how much money are we talking about here? B'shamay emrim, B'shamay says it is a dinar. It is the value of a dinar, or u'b'shava dinar, or the value of a dinar. U'b'sil emrim, and B'sil says it's a lot less. It's b'pruta u'b'shava pruta, either with the value of a pruta or a shava pruta. Frag the Mishnah v'kamihi pruta. How much is a pruta? Echad mishmeina b'isser italki. This is 1/8 of a isser italki, an Italian isser. The koines atzma, she can acquire herself back to be a free woman to marry somebody else, either beget, either she, as we just learned the full Masechta, either with divorce, or b'misas habal, or if the husband dies. Next case of the Mishnah, hayivama nignes bebia. A yivama, if Reuven is, let's say, married to Rachel, and Reuven died, they did not have any children. So Reuven has a brother, Shimon. So the Torah says that there's a mitzvah of yibum. So how does a yavam and a yavama, how do they get into relations? How do they become married? So the halacha is with biyah. The koines atzma, and she can acquire herself to be in her own rishus and to marry somebody else, either with chalitza, either with the whole process of chalitza, or b'misas hayavam, or if the yavam dies. So that's what the Mishnah says. Isha niknes, a woman can be acquired in three ways, and she can deacquire herself in two ways, either b'kesev b'shtar or b'biyah. And b'kesev, B'shamay says, is a dinar or b'shava dinar. B'sil argues and says it's a lot less. It's a pruta and a shava pruta. How much is a pruta? The Mishnah asks. This is a shmeina b'isser italki, and she could acquire herself back to become a unmarried woman, either with a get or if her husband dies. And then the Mishnah explains about a Yavama is niknes bepia, and she can acquire herself back either with chalitza or b'misas hayom. Now, the Gemara says, Ha'isha niknes, we learned in the Mishnah, the woman is acquired. So, Fred, the Gemara, why in our Mishnah? Because you use a very funny expression. It uses a lashon of the woman is niknes, is acquired. Acquiring is like a lashon kinyan. It's a lashon of like it's like an acquisition. You're acquiring something. Why would the Mishnah use an expression of niknes, lashon kinyan? And why is it that in the second perek, ha'ish mekadesh, daf mem aleph amar aleph, the Mishnah uses a lashon of kiddushin, ha'ish mekadesh. So, if the Mishnah or the perek, the next perek, ha'ish mekadesh, uses the expression of kiddushin, how come our Mishnah does not use the expression of kiddushin, rather it uses the expression of niknes, acquiring? So the Gemara answers and says, Mishum the kaboy the misni kesef, because the Mishnah wants to teach me that kesef, money, is one of the ways that a woman could be acquired by the man. Now, what's the connection? So the Gemara explains. The kesef, we know law, and from where do we know that a woman could be acquired with kesef, with money? So the Gemara says, Go mar kicha, kicha misni efron, and we learn Gzeira Shava of the words kicha and kicha from the whole story of Ephron. It says, it says in regards to Kiddushin, ki yikach ish isha, when a man will take a woman. And it says, when Avram Avinu purchased the state Ephraim, the pasuk says, Nosati kesef hasodeh kach mimeni, that Avram says, I gave you the money, kach mimeni, take it from me. So we see that the Torah uses the expression of kicha, yikach, by Kiddushin. The Torah uses the expression of kicha by the whole Maisa of Maris HaMachpelah, and we know that how is the kicha done? The kicha by Avram Avinu was done with money. So kicha by kiyikach ish means that they could be acquired with money. Okay, so we didn't really answer the question. So why did it use the expression of niknes? So he says v'kicha ikra kinyan, and kicha is called a kinyan. How do we know kicha is called a kinyan? Because when the Torah describes the Maisa, what does it say of Maris HaMachpelah? The pasuk uses the expression Hasada Ashikana Avram, the field that Ashikana Avram that he bought. How did he buy the field? Is with money. So we see that money is called a kinyan. So that's why the Mishnah, why does it use a lashon of kinyan? Is because the Mishnah wants to tell me that a woman could be acquired with kesef, and kesef is called a kinyan. So that's why the Mishnah uses the expression of niknes. Inami, or another answer, the reason why the Torah uses the expression of kinyan. Why does the Torah, we find, inami, another answer, we find that kinyan, in regards to fields, that when a person purchases a field, it's also a lashon of kinyan. Sada is bakesev yiknu. From here we learn that kinyan is by the kinyan of fields. And from the kinyan of fields, we can learn to the kinyan of the kesef of the woman. So therefore, the Torah, since the Mishnah uses the expression of kesef as one of the ways of Kiddushin, that's why the Mishnah teaches me ha'isha niknes. Okay, so now the Gemara asks, Benisni Hosom, how come in that Mishnah, instead of using the expression of ha'ish mekadesh, use the lashon of kinyan, ha'ish kaina? You're telling me that the reason why in our Mishnah it says niknes is because you want to teach me kesef. So how come in that Mishnah doesn't it use the expression of ha'ish kaina, just like our Mishnah? So the Gemara answers and says like this: in the beginning, the Mishnah uses an expression niknes, which is a lashon hateda, as we just said. Ki yikach, yikach is a lashon of kinyan, which is mentioned in the Torah. So that the Tana, the Mishnah, wants to use a lashon which is in the Torah, which is kinyan. Ula b'seiv, and the second perek, Tani lishn d'Rabbanan. In the Tana uses an expression kiddushin, which is a lashon of the Chachamim. The Torah does not mention at all the expression of kiddushin in regards to lekichas isha, and the Tana of the second perek wants to use an expression midrabbanan. Fred the Gemara umay lishna d'Rabbanan. What is the lishna? What is the terminology of the Rabbanan? So the Gemara says the osher la akula alma kehektish, that the when the husband is mekadesh this woman, it's very similar to hektish. Just like hektish, when somebody consecrates something to the Beis Hamikdash, it's usher to the entire world. So too, this woman is usher to everybody except for her husband through the Kiddushin. As like Tesis says, that the terminology, Harei at mikudeshes li, what does that mean? The husband's saying that you are mikudeshes, which means you're usher to me, just like hektish. So he's including himself. But rather, like Tesis says, it means li mikudeshes lo'elam bishvili, that you're going to be usher to me, except you're going to be usher to everybody, and only mikudeshes to me. So that's why the Tana of our Mishnah uses the expression midei daisa isha niknes. Ha'ish mekadesh, the reason why the Gemara uses, the Tana uses the expression Ha'ish mekadesh is because Kidushin is a lishna de Rabbanan. They tell me that what is Kidushin, that she's going to be usher la akula alma kehektish, she's going to be usher to everybody like hektish once this stage of Kidushin takes place. Now the Gemara asks further, V'nisni ha'ish kaina. So why not teach over here ha'ish kaina? Just like the second, now the Gemara is asking, if the first expression of the Torah, of the Mishnah, uses ha'ish mekadesh, so why not say over here ha'ish kaina? So the Gemara says, Mishum deko boy the misni seifa, because the Tana of the Mishnah wants to teach me the seifa. At the end of the Mishnah, what does it say? V'kainas atzma, she acquires herself in two ways. Bidida, in other words, which is speaking about her. So Tani Nami Reisha, Bidida, since the Tana of our Mishnah is speaking about a kinyan, which she acquires herself, which is miyuchis to the woman. So therefore, the Tana uses the expression ha'isha niknis, because you have to use an expression which is miyuchas to her. But why not teach the expression of ha'ish kaina umakna? Why not teach the beginning and the seifa should teach the expression ha'ish kaina? You can say ha'ish kaina with shalish drachim, umakna and umakna b'shtei drachim. So the Gemara says mishum de'ika misas habal, because you have one of the ways that a woman is kaina herself is with misas habal. The lav iu kamakna. It's not the husband that is makna. It's not the husband that's makna her to herself. Rather, it's min shamayu the makna. It's the Eibishter. It's min shamayim. That's through the misas habal that she's makna to herself. So therefore, the Mishnah must use the expression of a kainas atzma, and since the Mishnah must use the expression of a kainas atzma, so therefore that the Mishnah uses the expression of ha'isha niknes. Or another answer I can tell you, the reason why the Mishnah uses the expression of ha'isha niknes instead of ha'ish kaina is because if the Tana would have used the expression of ha'ish kaina havamina, I would have thought that the husband could be mekadesh the woman even against her will. Tana ha'ish niknes, therefore the Mishnah uses the expression ha'isha niknes to tell me the midaita, and has to be with her consent. Then she's being kaina. However, if it's Baal Karcha against her will, then Loi, she will not be acquired. Okay, so now the Gemara is mamshich to explain the lashon of the Mishnah, and it asks on different expressions of different dikduk. Now, shalish, what's the difference between, if you want to use a expression lashon zachar, you say, let's say for example, shleisha. Shalish is lashon nekeva. Now, so the Gemara asks, in my area, the Tana shalish, why does the Tana teach shalish lashon nekeva? Listen to shleisha. You should teach shleisha lashon zachar. As Taisus explains, b'chol atera kula, we always use a lashon of zachar. So why does the Mishnah use the expression of ha'isha niknes b'shalish drachim lashon nekeva? Why not lashon zachar? So the Gemara answers and says, mishum dekaboy lemisni derech, because the Tana wants to use the expression of derech shalish drachim. Has to use lashon of drachim, and the derech lashon nekeva, and derech is a lashon of nekeva. How do we know that derech is a lashon nekeva? The ksiv v'hidaita lemas haderech yelchu ba. I'm going to show you the way asher yelchu ba. Now ba is lashon nekeva, so derech is lashon nekeva. So since derech is lashon nekeva, the Tana of our Mishnah uses also a lashon, a dikduk of shalish lashon nekeva. So Fred, if you're telling me that derech is lashon nekeva, or the Tanya we learned in a Mishnah in Zavim. This is a Mishnah in Zavim, Perek Beis, Mishnah Beis. What does the Mishnah say? B'shiva drachim b'itkenes hazav. There's 7 ways that we check to know if the person is a zav, and then he'll be tamei. So the question is, instead of saying b'shiva drachim, boikinas azav b'shiva loshin zachar nisni sheva, you should teach sheva drachim loshin nekeva. If derech is a loshin nekeva, so then sheva also has to be sheva loshin nekeva, not loshin zachar. So the Gemara says, Mishum the kaboy the misni derech. The reason why is because the Tana wants to teach me derech. That ba'ashkechan derech ikri lashon zachar, and we find that derech is a lashon zachar. The ksiv, as it says, derech echad yetzu elecha, with 7 ways you go, v'shiva drachim menusu lefanecha, and 7 ways you flee. So echad and shiva are lashon zachar. So now the Gemara asks the obvious question: Ihachi kashi kashu kroya dadi. If you're giving this answer, then it comes out that the psukim are contradicting each other. The kashi nami mastis na dadi, and also the mishnayos are being says to each other. Because on one hand, you're saying, make up your mind, is derech a lashon nekeva or lashon zachar? From here in the beginning, you're saying that derech, here you're saying that derech is a lashon zachar. And beforehand, you're saying also that derech is a lashon nekeva. So, and also the mishnayos is a question. So the Gemara answers and says, kroya dadi leikashan, there's not a stira between the psukim. Derech, it could be either a lashon zachar or lashon nekeva. And hacha, when it comes to the pasuk of derech elchuba the beteda koi, which is speaking about teda, beteda ikri lashon nekeva. Teda is called a lashon of nekeva diksiv. Teda Hashem tamima meshivas nefesh. It doesn't say tamim meshiv nefesh. It says teda Hashem tamima meshivas nefesh. So since teda is a lashon nekeva, cause of love, a lashon nekeva. So that's why it uses the expression derech. Lashon nekeva, because we're talking about which is speaking about the teda. So therefore, over there, teda is a lashon nekeva. I'm going to use a lashon nekeva. However, hasam in the pasuk of baderech echad yetzu elecha, which that is the bochama koi. It's speaking about a mechama, which the darke shel ish lasis mechama. In darke shel ish lasis mechama, it's the derech for a man to wage war, not derech for the woman to wage war. So then, because of that's when I write b'derech lashon zachar. So that's when I say the derech echad yetzu elecha b'shiva drachim menusu lefanecha, which that's machama. So derech is lashon of zachar, and that's why I say ub'shiva. And the Gemara answers and says maslisan adadi leikashin. Also, the mishnayos also is not contradicting each other, because hacha in regards to the mishnayos the lagabi isha koi, which we're speaking about Kidushin, and Ketani b'lashon nekeva. So since by Kidushin we're speaking about Kidushin, so I teach myself lashon nekeva shalosh drachim, and Hasam in the Mishnah the lagabi ishkoi, which the Mishnah by Zavim is speaking about a man, which we know the whole halachas of Zav checking is all only by the Zachar. Why? The dakash ishli badek, bein dakash ishli badek. It's the way for a man to check himself to see if he has the ziva, to see what's the cause of it, but it's not the derech of the woman. Why? Because we know a woman is metame even ba'enis. So therefore the Tana teaches lashon zachar shiva drachim. So it depends. As they say, it depends what we're speaking about. If we're speaking about Kiddushin, I use lashon nekeva. Speaking about war, I use lashon zachar. My time now. The Gemara asks, my time a ton of shalish. So now, based on this answer, why do you teach me shalish lashon nekeva? Is because mishum drachim, because derech is lashon nekeva. So Fred the Gemara, okay, nisni devarim. So why don't you just teach me, say Haisha niknes b'shalish devarim, and if I use devarim, then I can go back and use shloisha lashon zachar. V'nisni shloisha lashon zachar. So my answer says mishum dekaboy lemisni bia, because the Tana wants to teach me that bia is also one of the kinyonim. Bia ikri derech, and bia is called derech. How do I know bia is called derech? So therefore, since bia is a lashon derech, I use a isha niknish b'shalish drachim, and since derech is a lashon nekeva, so that's why shalish is also lashon nekeva, and that's why I don't use dvarim. So the Gemara says hotinach bia. This makes sense why the Tana uses lashon of derech for bia. Kesev u'shtar ma'ikla meimar. What are you going to say about kesev and shtar? So the Gemara says mishum bia. It's for bia. So Fred the Gemara, the obvious question. But Tani tarti atu chad. You're telling me the majority of the cases is what? I have 3 cases: kesev, shtar, or bia. So kesev and shtar, it has nothing to do with derech being bia being derech. It has nothing to do with derech. So if the majority of the cases I don't need to write drachim, so why do I have to write drachim, write dvarim? Because the majority of the cases, dvarim makes sense. So the Gemara says, Hanachnami tzarich bia. Really, even the cases of kesef u'shtar also need to have bia. Eventually, they need to have bia. So since they all need to have bia, and bia is called derech, that's why the Mishnah uses the expression of drachim. Or I can give you another answer. Mani, who is the Tana of our Mishnah? This is Reb Shimon. This is Rabbi Shimon. Now, what does Reb Shimon say? The Tanya we learned that Reb Shimon. Reb Shimon says, why does the Torah say in regards to Kidushin, why does the Torah say that when the man acquires the woman, why not say kitilokach isha leish? Because it's the way of a man to run after the woman, and it's not the way of the woman to run after the man. This can be compared to a mashal of a man who lost something. So who looks for the lost object. It's not that the lost object looks for the person who lost it. It's the person who lost it looks for the aveda. So bal aveda mechazal avedase. It's the person who lost the object that looks for the avedas. So too, it's the man, like as we know, a man and woman were born together. And then the Eibishter took away the rib, so and created Chava. So it's like Adam had to go after Chava. So since it's the derech of the man to be mechazer on the isha, not the woman, that's what the Torah says. Ki yikach ish isha. And since according to Reb Shimon, the Torah uses the lashon of derech, which was we know it's the derech of the man to run out to be mechazer achar isha, and not the opposite of that. So that's why the Tana uses the lashon of derech in regards to kiddushin. Now, we just explained why the Mishnah chose the lashon of drachim, not dvarim, because there's a very special connection between derech and kiddushin. Now the Gemara asks. Now, we learned in the Mishnah b'shiva drachim b'itkinas hazov. The Mishnah says there's 7 ways we check the zav. Listening dvarim. Why not teach b'shiva dvarim b'itkim instead of drachim? So the Gemara answers and says like this: Hasam in the Mishnah in the case of zavim. The Tana, the Mishnah wants to teach me that the derech is, the teva of the world is that the more a person eats, so then he'll come to ziva. And the more a person will drink, so the more ziva he'll have. Therefore, that's what the Tana uses. The lashon of derech is to tell me why b'shiva drachim b'itkinas hazov and not dvarim, is because it's the derech of when you eat and drink that a person will have the ziva. Okay, Adkan and Mr. Shem tomorrow we'll start the next part.